I'm the host of iHeartRadio's award-winning tech podcast, There Are No Girls on the Internet, a tech in the public interest fellow at the MacArthur Foundation, and the author of a forthcoming audiobook from Simon & Schuster about intimacy and AI called Love at First Prompt. Me. All right, I guess we're paying attention. All right, so hello. If you were wondering what that audio that you just heard is, you caught me. That was not actually me. That was actually my AI vocal clone that my podcast recording software, Riverside, generated. It actually doesn't sound half bad, but it's not quite right either. And it turns out that nobody actually wants to listen to an AI-generated version of me. I don't just know that by looking at all of your faces and how they're reacting to just having heard that AI clone of me. I know that because every time that I try to sneak an AI clone version of myself into my tech podcast, There Are No Girls on the Internet, listeners leave Spotify comments that say, nobody wants to hear this. And yet, everywhere I look, I am hearing about how AI is going to revolutionize podcasting. And it's never just podcasters are going to use AI to help with boring stuff like metadata or transcripts. No, it's always these big, bold proclamations. AI is going to demolish the industry, revolutionize the industry. So when I tell people that I make my living as a podcaster full time, the first question they ask me is, well, after, do you actually make any money? Are you worried about AI taking your job? And the answer is no. But I want to give you a more useful answer than just no, because the why behind that answer is actually a market thesis. So I want to start with what is actually happening out there already, because as we just heard, there are already companies generating thousands of AI podcast episodes each week at a cost of roughly $1 per episode. There are AI hosts. There are AI voices like the one that you just heard a moment ago. There are AI-generated conversations that sound remarkably pretty convincing. Now, the pitch to brands and buyers is really obvious. Low cost, speed, and scale. And yet, last fall, iHeartRadio, the largest audio company in the country, reaching 9 out of 10 Americans each month, made a striking announcement. They launched something called Guaranteed Human. Every podcast they publish will be from a real human being. Their chief programming officer put it very plainly. Sometimes you have to pick a side, and we're on the side of the humans. So when someone like me, who spends a lot of time thinking about ethics and technology, says that I'm not betting on AI replacing humans in podcasting, you might think that it's because of all of the squishy ethical reasons and philosophical reasons, and that is half right. But when executives at a company like iHeart say it, that's a business decision. The kind of thing that the people who care about making the math at media companies should be paying attention to. iHeart's own research found that 90% of consumers want their media created by real humans, even though 70% of those consumers use AI tools themselves. 92% say that nothing compares with human connection. So why? In a world saturated with AI content, our audience is doubling down on their desire for human. Well, the answer is trust. And podcasting has it in a way that almost no other medium has right now. According to the Pew Research Center, one of the most respected polling outfits in America, 87% of podcast listeners say that they trust podcasts and expect the information that they hear in them to be accurate. Now compare that to social media, where most people, 59% of them, expect what they see on social media to be largely inaccurate. We are in a crisis of trust in media, and podcasts are sitting on the other side of that divide, largely unscathed. Listeners also give podcasts something extraordinarily valuable: their time and attention. On average, podcast listeners spend 7.5 hours a week with podcasts. And the number one reason that they come is to learn. So these are not passive, scrolling, mindless consumers. They're engaged, curious, and high-intent audiences. And here's what seals it for brands, because 63% of listeners say that their podcast hosts are trustworthy. And before anybody gets the wrong idea, I don't hate technology. Sorry, back it up. That's a conversion rate that social media advertising can only dream about. And it works because of that feeling that anybody who knows and loves podcasting knows innately. The feeling that you're listening to a trusted friend, not a media product. I listen to podcasts as I fall asleep at night, so my favorite podcast hosts, shout out to Jonathan and Seth, are the last voices I hear in headphones when I'm going to sleep in bed at night. So that is a relationship built over time, episode by episode. It cannot be manufactured. And this is exactly what AI cannot replicate and maybe never will in any of the ways that actually matter. Now, before anybody gets the wrong idea, I do not hate technology. In fact, I really love technology. I use AI tools in my own podcast production. Metadata, audio cleanup, transcripts. AI does all of this really well. And frankly, I would be leaving efficiency on the table if I ignored it. So the question is not whether or not AI has a role in podcasting. The question is, what do you use it for? AI is a tool for humans to create things. How many of you are old enough to remember that old streetwear brand FUBU with the LL Cool J ads? Remember that? Well, FUBU stood for us, by us. And I kind of like thinking about podcasting that way too. For humans, by humans. So instead of FUBU, maybe it's FUBA. The moment you try to use AI to replace the human, to shortcut the intimacy, to fake the connection or fake the funk, to generate the voice and personality that listeners are actually there for, you have fundamentally misunderstood and also devalued what it is you're selling. And I think one of the big questions for brands is, do you want your brand associated with something that audiences perceive as fake, lazy, and frankly, kind of a shortcut? Or do you want your brand to be associated with the trust that we know listeners have with their podcast hosts? I once saw this post on Reddit where somebody had generated an AI podcast using Notebook LM, and they had proudly posted it on Reddit. And all of it sounded pretty convincing. But the top comment said, if it wasn't actually worth your effort, it's probably not worth my time. And that really stuck with me. Because when listeners press play, they are entering into a relationship. They're extending trust. And when that trust is broken, when they discover the voice they've been listening to is synthetic, that the expertise they've been learning from is algorithmically generated, that damage is not just to that one show. It poisons the well for everyone by training this heretofore engaged audience to tune out. That everything is just more slop content that it's fine to ignore. And that is a loss that no amount of scale can compensate for. It is true, we are entering an era of AI content saturation. Text, images, video, yes, even audio. All of it is going to get cheaper, faster, and more abundant. So when people ask against that backdrop how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling nervous about how AI is poised to shake up podcasting, I say no, I'm actually feeling really great, because I know that when that happens, authentic human podcasters like me are going to be increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. That genuine human voice, the personality you can actually trust, that expert whose POV you have come to rely on, that host who makes you feel, even for the length of a metro commute, like another human out there sees you and gets it. I believe podcasting is uniquely positioned to own that space. It always has been. And I know it's almost like a little bit of a cliche to say this at this point, but it's because the medium itself has that intimacy built into it in a way that you simply can't do with video and text. But that advantage only holds if we protect it. If we resist the temptation to chase scale at the expense of the thing that makes the medium worth a damn in the first place. I write about AI and human connection in my forthcoming audiobook called Love at First Prompt. And what I keep coming back to in this work is this. Humans don't just prefer connecting with other humans because it's familiar. We prefer it because something real is at stake. When a human tells you something, they're putting their reputation, their credibility, their relationship with you on the line. That accountability is the foundation of trust, and the stakes are very real. That is the value proposition of podcasting. And in a world drowning in synthetic content, it is more powerful than it has ever been. Thank you so much. Enjoy your conference.